Well, I watched this and immediately forgot the plot, so don't expect any detailed exposition of its components. First of all, I'm assuming it was subtitled Brave New World in reference to the famous book where the general population is kept in a semi-narcoleptic stupor by the sedating pabulum foisted on it by corrupt ruling class. As a knowing nod to the entertainment business in general and superhero movies in particular. Or maybe just use impressive, inspiring words like brave, new, and world to trick the gullible masses into thinking this route done by the book Long John Opera would in some way offer a glint of sunshine into the bleak, dull, and pitiful miasma of their worthless existence. Either way, it's pretty much intellectual property landfill. Harrison Ford has wheeled out his only recognizable name. He was probably paid by the kilo in medicinal marijuana to convince him to appear in this pot boiler, although he's so old that marijuana would ironically probably actually have a medicinal effect by now. He has the same grumpy, stoic persona that he's used to last in every moving picture he's ever acted in. The one that makes Jason Statham's acting style look like a one-man Brazilian gay pride parade in comparative effusiveness. I would love to see a film starring Harrison Ford that doesn't put him in a difficult situation that he has to extricate himself from. Perhaps an hour and a half of him sitting by the pool drinking cocktails and playing Snake on his old Nokia phone. Who knows, maybe the semblance of the tiniest smiles would almost break out on his face. You never know. Of course, it's not going to happen. 10 minutes into the film, a Russian terrorist would show up and urinate in his Mai Tai and throw the Nokia into the pool where it would continue to work perfectly. Brilliant things, Nokias. Those were the days back when porn wasn't so readily available on your telephonic device, the device that you now hold only temporarily in your left hand for a few minutes until the dirty deed is done and you reach for the tissues. But Harrison is a movie star more than an actor, and a movie star job is to use the persona they've created while performing actions and saying dialogue in a believable non-wooden manner. This non-wooden manner doesn't apply to all film stars, though. Think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Chuck Norris, and Steven Seagal. There's more wood in their performances than there was in George Washington's teeth or Ron Jeremy's wood. In the end, though, their lack of talent is acceptable because if we're being fair, why shouldn't people with learning difficulties also get to have a movie star they can relate to? As for the rest of the cast, they're pretty bland. The chap playing Captain America certainly doesn't give off any superhero vibes, to use a phrase employed by younger folks in the 70s and 80s. He looks more like a responsible manager of a KFC or a journalist for a failing news website or a movie review Substack that no one reads. Maybe it's just down to his physiognomy that he feels lacking in the superhero department, and I can safely say this with impunity, as I too am in possession of a weak chin. Superheroes are supposed to have chiseled lantern jaws with a cleft so large it looks like a buttock crack. That's how they were envisioned by the original, probably deeply closeted, comic book artists back in the 40s and 50s. A chin that would make a doorman at a Cro-Magnon nightclub proud. He also doesn't have any of the same superpowers as the previous Captain America either, which is telling. If he truly represented modern-day America, he would be clinically obese, with type 2 diabetes and no health care, with all his credit cards maxed out, and now he's going to have to, in the near future, start a fight with someone using his extensive gun collection to avoid paying back his creditors. There is a welcome addition to the cast in the form of the charismatic Giancarlo Esposito. Now, all of us, myself included, thought Giancarlo was Puerto Rican or Cuban. But I've just discovered he was born in Denmark, and his father was Italian and his mother is African-American. He's mostly been cast as Puerto Rican or Cuban characters because, let's be honest, most casting directors haven't a clue about the difference between Giancarlo and Juan Carlos, or any other European monarch for that matter. I know him not only from Breaking Bad, also from certain Spike Lee films. Spike Lee films invariably contain many a memorable and charismatic character, unless, of course, that character is played by Spike Lee. Then they tend to be annoying and grating turds with a higher opinion of themselves than anybody else could possibly concur with. Mind you, that could also be said to be an essential ingredient in many an actor's personality, but fortunately for us, and unfortunately for them, they're not usually casting their own films. For another example of this unhappy phenomenon, see Quentin Tarantino. Liv Tyler plays Betty Ross, the daughter of Harrison Ford's character. Liv is the only daughter of Babe Buell, a model singer and former Playboy playmate, Miss November 1974, and Steven Tyler, the lead singer of Aerosmith, the rock star who is famous for festooning himself in scarves, screaming, twirling, and doing the splits, all whilst on heroin. They were estranged for many years, but Steven has turned out to be a wonderfully eccentric substitute grandmother to Liv. And now that Babe is coming up for her 72nd birthday in a fitting career circle, she's been booked to appear nude in another adult magazine. But this one is aimed more at an audience that has very different predilections to what they seek from a glamour model. Put it this way, Wayne Rooney and Emmanuel Macron are subscribers. One of the few plot elements I still can remember is that Harrison Ford, who plays US President Thaddeus Ross, is the victim of an assassination attempt. It's never really made clear why, though. Perhaps he's one of the few people in Washington, D.C. who wouldn't spend all major holidays and most of their paid leave during the calendar year worshipping in that famous temple on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Having an attraction to potential sexual partners that are actually over the age of majority or even in their 20s would have deemed him as untrustworthy and odd by many of his fellow politicians, as they're not used to working with such people. What I'm trying to say is he decided, in a highly unusual move for a politician, to not be a pederast. And on that happy note, I shall leave you until the second and final review of this absolutely dire moving picture. Adieu!